Russia calls the Himars the most dangerous weapon of the Ukrainian armed forces. In no small part thanks to this weapon, over 1,000 Russian tanks now line the Ukrainian roads, ruined, and with significantly fewer parts than they arrived in Ukraine with. At this point, the Himars cannot be ignored, and it seems Russia is out to do something about it. According to Russian military expert Alexei Leonov, the Russian military made efforts to hack the Himars system, and they've succeeded. Leonov says Russia can now pinpoint the launch site of a Himars early enough to take it out. But this isn't the first time claims like these would come out of Russia. So in this video, we separate fact from fiction and find out if Russia did indeed hack the Himars, starting with what exactly is the Himars? The M142 High Mobility Artillery Rocket System, or Himars for short, is an American light multiple rocket launcher developed in the late 1990s to attack, neutralize, suppress, and destroy targets using indirect precision. Although it was designed for the U.S. Army, the invasion of Ukraine has made Ukraine essentially a testing ground for Western weapons and their effectiveness against a major adversary like Russia. And the Himars has traveled there to play a major role, despite operating in its lighter missile configuration. Yes, the weapon has two main attack configurations, one where it carries a pod with 6 GMLRS rockets and one with a single ATACMS missile. The difference between both configurations is massive. The configuration of a single 610mm ATACMS missile enables the Himars to wield a 500-pound WDU-18B penetrating high-explosive blast fragmentation warhead with a superior 190-mile range. More than enough range to enable Ukraine to attack deep into Russian territory. This capability to attack deep into Russia isn't one the US is ready to provide to Ukraine, as striking Russia's mainland could escalate the conflict even further, which is far from what the world needs. To this effect, the US is supplying the Himars to Ukraine in its second configuration, one where the weapon is loaded with 6 less decisive GMLRS rockets that have a 57-mile attack range, just enough to protect the Ukrainian territory while being as lethal as needed. These GMLRS rockets each pack a 200-pound high-explosive unitary warhead and contain an additional 51 pounds of PBX-109 high-explosive in a steel blast fragmentation case to spit 182,000 preformed tungsten fragments. This results in increased lethality against personnel and light-armored vehicles. By December 2021, 50,000 GMLRS rockets had been produced, with yearly production exceeding 9,000 rockets. Suffice it to say, Ukraine isn't getting any shortage of these anytime soon. And speaking of shortages, there have been questions as to why, since the Himars appears to be such a game changer, the US is only sending them in relatively low numbers. Ukraine's defense minister, Alexei Leonov, claims that the country needs at least 100 units. So far, the US has committed 16 Himars units to Ukraine, sending them in batches of 4. It turns out that these slow but steady deliveries of the Himars are due to the weeks-long process of training Ukrainian troops on how to use the platform. And so with each new team of Ukrainian troops that get the hang of it, the US sends over a new batch of Himars systems. The third batch had only recently arrived in Ukraine before the Biden administration announced the fourth batch in a $400 million Presidential Drawdown Authority, or PDA, allocation signed by President Joe Biden, possibly signifying that it's become a top priority to get more of these systems to Ukraine. This PDA, which was signed in July, would be the 15th PDA for Ukraine signed by Biden's administration since August 2021, bringing the total injection in security assistance for Ukraine to $8 billion. At a $5.6 million unit price, the 16 Himars systems would make up $90 million of this injection. This high price tag is due to a number of factors, but a huge one is the weapon systems. The Himars is designed to be highly precise. To do this, it has GPS network-enabled systems that guide missiles en route to the target. However, being connected over a network is sure to attract hacking attempts, because if adversaries can't stop a missile, they might as well stop the machinery that vomits the missile. Apparently, one adversary that would be interested in hacking the Himars is Russia, needless to say, due to how much it's helping Ukraine repel the Russian troops. We'll get to whether or not Russia could in fact manage to achieve such a feat in a second. For now, we'll take a look at why hacking is the last resort for Russia against the Himars, and not just good old find, shoot, destroy. The Himars is fitted on the new, highly mobile and rugged family of medium tactical vehicles of the U.S. Army. It can also be operated from ships to deliver precision fire from a standoff range against shore defenses, as was demonstrated in 2017 by the U.S. Marine Corps from the deck of the amphibious transport dock USS Anchorage. But for Ukraine, it's the 5-ton trucks. These trucks give the Himars an additional 300-mile range and are impressively mobile, allowing for some effective shoot and scoot tactics. On recognizing the lethality of this weapon, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu ordered his forces to prioritize destroying the Himars systems. But there was little to no success on that quest. And now, the new approach to taking down the Himars is less brute and more keyboard-based in an attempt to hack it. But can Russia really hack the Himars? Alexei Leonov, the Russian expert who revealed the hacking claim, is the editor of the Russian military magazine, Arsenal Otechestva. He made the claim in July when he appeared on the Rossiya 1 TV channel as a guest of TV host Vladimir Solovyov, who is known by the U.S. State Department as a Kremlin propagandist. And experts believe Leonov, like his host, is a propagandist too. Nearly a month after the claim was made, there is zero evidence that any Himars trucks have been lost or hacked, or that Russian forces can instantly fix their launch site. Also, the American-made SyncGARS VHF communication system in use by Ukraine is difficult to detect, to say the least, and Russian forces cannot, quote, instantly pinpoint the location of a single user. The navigation and targeting computers likely only receive data, broadcasting no detectable radio frequency signal. As we've said earlier, Himars does use an internal computer system, but it is unlikely that it broadcasts signals detectable by Russian forces at range. This isn't to say that it's impossible or even unlikely to spot Himars on the battlefield. They're huge after all. In theory, Russian forces can in fact use counter-battery radars to detect Himars launch locations. Counter-battery radars search the skies for enemy artillery rockets and shells in flight. Once a counter-battery radar detects incoming artillery projectiles, it can then extrapolate a likely launch location. This information is then passed on to a friendly artillery that then bombards the location, ideally catching the enemy artillery before it scoots to a new firing position. Although that's easier said than done, as the Himars, combined with the competence of Ukrainian forces, has become a highly elusive target. In terms of hacking, if a country would be able to hack the Himars, it would be the country where it was built, the US, as they would have an insight into the workings of the military-grade weapon to a great degree. Russia doesn't have a Himars, and although they do have rocket launchers on trucks, they do not have anything similar to the Himars. Therefore, the internals of the weapon would be completely new territory. Still, we must emphasize that it isn't impossible to locate the Himars in action. Leonov's use of the term hack, however, is what could be misleading, as it conveys a message that Russian forces somehow penetrated the Himars system itself. And that isn't backed by any evidence. Lack of evidence hasn't stopped Russian commentators in the past, though. In 2014, Russian propaganda claimed that the guided missile destroyer USS Donald Cook was destroyed by an electronic bomb while in the Black Sea, but the boat was pictured in 2019 floating in its full glory like nothing ever happened. Probably because nothing ever did. More recently, according to the New York Times, Russian propaganda has grown, quote, increasingly outlandish in an attempt to justify the invasion of Ukraine. And they only keep coming. Leonov himself in 2021 asserted, without proof, that the Russian Su-57 fighter jet left its American rivals, the F-22 and F-35, far behind in terms of performance. He also predicted, if you will, that the upcoming Russian S-500 air defense system would fare well against the upcoming B-21 Raider stealth bomber, despite neither system being in service with either country. In early August, he declared the U.S. had started to back off its support of the Ukrainian government. The same day, Washington announced a new $1 billion military aid package. Another $775 million military aid package was announced some days later. So, if we were a betting channel, we would go ahead and throw our stake wherever Alexei Leonov is not. His track record of being wrong could be a world record for propagandists. The Russian government hasn't made any claims of the Himars being figured out, nor has the Ukrainian government, nor the US government. The only thing all three governments agree on is that you should subscribe to this channel and give this video a like. That would be all for now. Thanks for watching.